Pour écouter cette session en français, veuillez cliquer en bas de votre écran sur l'onglet Interprétation et sélectionner le drapeau français.
Hello, bonjour.
Barry Saleho.
On behalf of ICLE Africa,
the African Centre for Cities,
Our Future Cities,
Red Cross Crescent Climate Centre,
and partners,
we're excited to welcome all of you
to the Rise Africa 2022 Action Festival.
Rise Africa has been growing since 2020
as a platform for thinkers,
doers,
and enablers,
committed to inspiring action for sustainable cities.
This year's theme is
creativity.
For me, this means blending skills to be able to communicate the climate change complexity in rapidly urbanizing cities.
I think we have such untapped potential in Africa when it comes to creativity.
I love the idea that we need to create space to be creative. I think so often we rush into trying to act immediately, and creativity is a good reminder to sit back and to really tap into the capacities we have.
I think agency is finding ways of giving power back to people, to groups, to young people, especially on a continent where it's a very young population.
The value, the inputs from the youths, people who are considered inexperienced have valuable contribution, and they're really taking that into consideration.
I think what agency means to me is change from the ground up.
The importance of urgency is the recognition of the past and the recognition that we've lost time.
Urgency is about acting now to build more inclusive, productive, and resilient cities.
Is this need to creatively redesign and unlearn and explore new ways of thinking.
The festival is hosting 33 sessions
with 135 provocateurs
from across Africa and the world.
Every session aims to show new ideas,
showcase ongoing action,
and launch new initiatives, bringing participants together
to chart a new route forward.
We hope that the festival program will inspire you.
At the festival, we encourage you to showcase your business and projects,
build lasting partnerships,
unleash your creative potential,
commit to sustainable action.
Rise Africa is about translating ideas into action. What actions are you going to commit to this festival?
Before the session begins, it is important to note that you're being recorded.
And by participating, you are given the consent to be recorded.
All recordings will be available on the program page after the festival.
Creative expression is vital for creating new futures for our cities.
And so we invite you to enter this session in the spirit of creativity and dreaming.
Je vis avec un mal dont je ne suis pas le porteur. Je vis avec un mal qui me donne de l'espoir. Atteint de l'albinisme, déficience intellectuelle, handicapé physique, malentendant, malvoyant, je suis dédaigné par la population. Exclusion, désaffiliation, je suis exclu de la société. Ils disent que je suis différent d'eux. Discrimination, marginalisation, je vis en marge de la société. Je suis la risée de la société. Stigmatisation, ségrégation, je proteste contre les travers de la société. Je refuse ce mode de vie. Inclusion, insertion, nous promouvons l'alphabétisation, l'éducation inclusive, l'accès aux infrastructures, l'accès aux services sociaux pour les personnes vivant avec un handicap, la création d'un système distributif pour réduire la pauvreté, la reconnaissance du travail non rémunéré, la réduction du chômage à longue durée, la valorisation de l'égalité pour toute la communauté. Je suis différent d'eux. Le handicap n'est pas une fatalité. Sachez que mon handicap a fait de moi une bombe à épanouissement. Sachez que mon handicap a fait de moi une bombe à épanouissement.
Okay, I think I have the floor. Okay. So hello everyone. Welcome. Welcome to Rise Africa 2022 Action Festival. It's so nice to be here. Thank you so much for joining us for this session. Now this session is brought to you by CIP, and CIP stands for Circular Economy Innovation Partnership. Our session is tagged Eko Vibes Podcast, and it's about learning about Lagos circularity transition. I don't know, is everyone able to hear me? That's really important. So I don't know, is everyone able to hear me?
Can you hear?
Yes, please.
Yes, I can hear you. I can hear you. This is Babatunde Eko Circular.
Okay.
Yes, I can hear you. This is Miriam, CIP.
Okay, thank you so much. So welcome once again. It's so nice, again, like I said earlier, to be here. This opportunity has been given to us by ITHI and the Rise Africa 2022 Action Festival. So thank you. Our session is tagged Eko Vibes Podcast, where again, we'll be learning about Lagos circularity transition, and we look forward to sharing our learnings with you and our journey so far. But before I, go on, I want to say thank you all for joining us. Thank you for taking time out of your day to be here. And I would like to know where you're from. So in the chat box, could you kindly go and just type your name and where you're from so that I could just welcome you formally to the session. So I'll go first. My name is Deborah. I am from Nigeria, Lagos, and I look forward to having an exciting session where I get to learn a lot from you as well. Awesome. I see someone also from Nigeria, Afola Shade. I hope I did justice to your name. Thank you so much for joining us. You're joining us from Lagos, Nigeria. Jokudu Gaya, thank you so much. I think you're joining us from Cape Town. It's so nice to have you. I apologize if I get your names wrong, like the pronunciation. I sincerely apologize, but it's so nice to have you here with us. Thank you, Kathleen Sol from Cape Town, South Africa. It's so nice to have you join us. It's actually 2 p.m. over here. What time is it there? I'm thinking it's after 3 over there. Okay, so let me see. Okay, we have Ayomide from Lagos, Nigeria. Ayomide, it's nice to have you. We have Mr. Taiwo from Nigeria. Thank you so much. Okay. Okay, we have Matthew from Cape Town. Thank you so much, South Africa. Okay, we have Akere. I think that's Miriam from Lagos, Nigeria. Thank you so much for yeah, it's 3 p.m. Okay, thank you. We also have Natalie from Nigeria. Okay, so what's going to happen is that I see so many names. So in between, I'm going to also still be welcoming you as we go on through the session. Yes, thank you from Cape Town. We have Daniel. Okay, we have God's Will from Lagos, Nigeria. Thank you so much. So I will still go through the names. I will still tell of you thank you personally, but I would like to go through what our session is about briefly. So we're privileged to be here, and like the intro video told us, the session is generally about talking about the story of circularity in a creative fashion. That's talking about it creatively and talking about it with as much urgency as is needed so that people really get the message and they're able to apply it to themselves. And that's why we're here. So for our session today, we'll be having Dr. Natalie. She will be joining us, so she's already here. And then we will be having sort of like a dialogue where she will explain the journey so far, highlighting the podcast, that is the Eko Circular Vibes podcast for us. Now, in between that session, we will also have a listening of an exclusive piece of the podcast. So the podcast will be played, at least 2 podcasts will be played for us so everyone can listen to it and then join us, give us feedback, give us reviews, and just let us know what they think about it. And then finally, we'll have a question and answer session where we get to hear from you guys. What are your thoughts? What are your takes? You give us feedback, and then we also go back and apply them. And then we would like to hear your questions as well. What questions do you have so that we could run through them and just provide as much answers as we can. Again, thank you so much to everyone that is joining us from all over Africa and the world. I see Babatunde Adebayo from Osun State, Nigeria. Thank you for joining us. I see Tolu from Nigeria. Thank you for joining us. I just want to say thank you all so much for joining us. So I also want to thank people that have been working at the back end. So don't mind me that I'm doing my thank yous before. I like to thank people in advance as well, because I believe that without the people, we really wouldn't be here right now. So I'm going to give Tolu, I think you can start sharing your slides. So that we can formally kick off the session. Okay. Okay, Dr. Natalie.
Hey, yeah.
Okay, so yes, thank you so much. So welcome to this session. Yeah, so that was really like an interesting tune that played just now. I don't know if every other person heard it. Could you like let us know in the chat box if you heard the tune that was playing? If you did not, we would love to play it again, because it's really a vibe that we would like to share with you. It like brings this picture of how Lagos is to mind whenever we listen to it. So I'm looking at the chat box. Let's make it as engaging as possible. I don't know if you heard the music that was playing, or do we replay it so that you could have a feel of the music? And oh, okay, it was extremely soft. Awesome. So I'm going to play it again, and this time I'm going to make it a bit louder so that you can hear. Okay. Is it loud enough? Okay. Oh, okay, it's loud. Yeah. Okay. I'm playing it again. Okay, so I think everybody heard it this time. It was loud enough. Wasn't it a vibe? So wasn't it a vibe? Yeah, I think it was great too. So Dr. Natalie, so over to you. That was really a cool tune, but then I think everyone would agree with me that would love to know what it was for. What was that tune for?
Yeah, it's got to say, it's one of my favorite vibes. So it's the Eko Circular Vibe podcast tune.
Okay, that's really interesting. And I'm thinking that not everyone here knows what Eko is. So what does Eko, like, what does it mean?
So Eko actually means Lagos, but something I think is pretty cool, the Eko, we're into circular economy, right? So Eko kind of sounds like eco, like, circular solutions, right? So it's cool.
It's cool. It really is. And then when I hear eco, I think of the environment, I think of surrounding, I think of preserving nature and all that. But then I have to ask, is there anything eco about eco, as in they really sound interchangeable? Is there anything eco about eco?
Well, yeah, you would be surprised. And I mean, like, there is a lot of waste in Lagos, and worse yet, what I'd say is waste leakage. So, don't go to the beach after it rains, because you'd be attacked by like every type of rubbish known to mankind.
Okay, that's really really something. I was thinking I was going to hear a lot about the creative part, but then let me just ask this question. So why did you say I'll be surprised? I'm thinking there's good stuff somewhere.
Yeah, you're true. I know it's true. So you're right. There is a lot of creativity, and I think that's like what's the exciting thing. There's just really amazing things that people are doing from at the grassroots level upwards. To really address problems around waste, to reduce it, and to really make sure that waste itself is disposed properly. So a lot is going on.
Okay, and I think that's really interesting. So I'm going to beg you to tell us more about it.
Yeah, where do I begin?
Okay, we were talking about something before. We're talking about the Eko Circular Vibes podcast. So I think that's a very good place to start from.
Yeah, that is a really good start. Yes, yeah, I think so. Let's do that.
Okay. So, but before you go on, I think it's only fair that we formally introduce you to everyone. So who are you and why are you here?
Okay, cool. Yeah, so my name is Natalie Beinish. I'm from Canada originally. I've been living in Lagos for about 4 years now. I really like running a lot. I do it every day. Addicted to chocolate, eat that probably every day too. And I have 3 kids. I even brought a picture. You got to see it. Look, come on.
Okay, so yeah, I see your kids. I see them having fun. And that's good to know. That's cute to know. But then I also want to know, what do you really do? What do you do?
Okay, what do I do? Like how I work. Okay, yes, I got it. Okay, so I was telling you, I've been in Lagos for about 4 years now, and I'm part of this really great organization called the Circular Economy Innovation Partnership.
Okay, that's interesting. I know them, and I think I work there as well. They're a really awesome organization.
Yeah, totally. They're really awesome. Cool.
Okay, so I don't want it to be that we are blowing our own horn, since everyone knows that we're from there. But then what does Circular Economy Innovation Partnership, what do they do? What do they stand for?
Yeah, good question. So, well, I got to tell you, pretty well, we love the circular economy, you see. And, even more than that, I think we love the idea, the promise, in fact, of what circular economy concepts have to offer, really, in terms of the idea that you're reducing waste, but you're promoting business growth, and you're developing local employment, and also, that the respective business and investment opportunities as well. And that's something that's super exciting when you're trying to address these 2 key existential issues in a Nigerian context, especially around the environment and around local economic development.
That's interesting, but I'm also thinking that that's a mouthful, and that's quite a handful, because you are doing so much on research, you're doing so much on program facilitation, and you also mentioned that you're doing so much on the end of advocacy as well. So how are you able to juggle all these things together? Isn't it too difficult? Isn't it heavy on you?
Yeah, pretty much. But I got this amazing team, so and they're really doing all the heavy lifting, I gotta say. But it's true. The agenda is huge. There's there's so much that's out there, and there's so many ideas, so many business models that you could pursue, and that really do make economic sense. And I'm gonna, one example is around my kids' school. They're even procuring locally made recycled products that are based on price and quality competitiveness. So there are kind of business model opportunities that are proven cases around the circular economy.
Okay, that's interesting. And I think the other day you were talking about an organization that's not in Lagos per se. I think it was Freetown or something. I don't know. Could you
Yeah, that's the one. That's my kids' school. They're procuring for their playground the material. And definitely, yeah. So it's they're pretty awesome. So shout out to them. And it's just really another great example of a business doing really great things for circular economy in Lagos.
Okay, so let's go back a bit. Let's go back to Circular Economy Innovation Partnership. And I'm thinking that there are a number of initiatives that are currently happening now. I don't know if you would like to list them. I know we see them on the screen with the slides, but then I'd like to hear from you. What are you currently working on? And what are you currently doing?
You mentioned sort of the focus areas that we work on. So it's like research, advocacy, program facilitation. It's all to do with focusing in on, I think we've given the example of Freetown Waste right now, but it's all to do with identifying, supporting these business case opportunities, and really making sure that those business and investment opportunities grow. So Yeah, so some of the programs that we're working on right now is something called Circular Legos, which is quite an expansive, I would guess, ecosystem program that was really set up with in partnership with the Lego State to build a community around of business and policy practitioners around a circular economy, so that we do move towards this goal of growing the business and investment opportunity in Legos. I think one outcome that sits from that or comes from that is something called the Loop Lab Incubation program, which is running right now, and is a program that's designed to match what we call challenge owners, so companies who have what we call circular business challenges or circular business interests with startups that are based in Nigeria. And the goal there is to identify, build those partnerships, build the business and investment opportunity that's associated with it as well. In conjunction with that, we're also running a research fellowship program that really spun off organically from the Loop Lab incubation program as well, because as I said, the Loop Lab incubation program was designed around these challenge owners who had these business challenge issues. But we found in that process, actually, some companies didn't have necessarily what you call business model challenges. They were more structural issues related to the promoting circular business and investment opportunities. And through that, we've partnered with a number of universities, who I think some of whom are here today, to set up a pilot fellowship program where there's three university teams competing against one another, and to address these kind of structural challenges. So it is a very packed and exciting program we have.
Okay, that's really interesting. And then I heard you say something about the whole thing not being so straightforward as it sounds, because you have the high level, you have the mid level, and then you have the grassroots that you try to reach all of them. I don't know if you could tell us a bit about that in terms of the multinationals. How do you create these bridges and then the gaps and things like that?
Yeah, it's a good question. And I think that's where the ecosystem story comes in. It's really about identifying what the needs are of different partners within this space and trying to match them together so that we can create the most optimal solutions possible. And I think, again, a part of this, I think you have a slide right here talking about the companies that are working in this space. There's just so many. It's really unbelievable. And I think every day I get to meet another organization doing something that's circular, but many of them are confronting the same kinds of issues. It's within the Nigerian and the Lagos context specifically where we're working, you're facing the same issues around waste segregation, sorting, that really affect how these different kinds of business models can operate and their opportunity to scale. Likewise, when we're working with businesses, I think there's a real need around the funding and the investment opportunities. So that's something that we're really working hard to make sure that we can match these needs, the interests and the capabilities together, especially so that the resources that can be made available to scale up and to develop these solutions.
Yeah, that's to me, that's really interesting. So I'm going to ask the audience, I don't know are we moving too fast? Are you able to follow us? Do you need us to go back a bit on something? Because the whole concept of what we're trying to do here is we're trying to just have a dialogue and then introduce you to all the different things we do before we hit the nail on the head as to the whole podcast and what brought about the podcast, because we see the podcast as a creative outlet. We see it as an interesting way to share the message of circularity with people. And I think one of the things that Natalie mentioned that I noticed was that when you come to Lagos, a lot of people don't know how easy it is to practice the reduce, the reuse, and then the recycle aspects of circularity. They are doing it in their homes, but then they don't actually know that that's what they're doing. And I think that we'll get to that point where we explain what the podcast was actually designed for and what it was designed to do. But we want you guys to just know what we are doing on a basic level before we launch into that. So I don't know. I like your feedback in the chat box. Are you able to follow, or should we slow down? Should we go back? Let's just keep these things coming while I launch into stuff. So yes, Dr. Dudley, I asked you about yourself, but I noticed you didn't ask me about myself, and I've been waiting for that question.
That's true. You can tell me a little bit more about you. I'm interested.
Okay. So I'm Edward Deborah. I am currently working as the communications and events manager for CIP. And as you said, we're currently running the fellowship, we're running the incubation program, we're running other things. And like you said, one of the key things for us is to partner with people. So we're also trying to spread word about other people, other businesses around Lagos and around Africa. So yes, but then thank you for the opportunity to introduce what I do for Secular Lagos.
And I guess you're the reason why I'm here right now.
No, I'm not. But then you could say that because we're here for Secular Vibes. That's Eko Secular Vibes.
Okay. Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So I think I would now like to ask the question about where does the podcast fit into the entire scope? Where does the podcast come in? Because I know that it's more of a communications tool, but for you, how did you envision the podcast?
So do you want the honest answer here?
Yes, I think that's the best way to go.
Okay, so seriously, I think this was a kind of our first attempt at awareness and reach. Circular economy, it started to become kind of fashionable in Nigeria because there was policy people, fancy people in Europe, North America, like Ellen MacArthur, who was saying it was really important.
Wow. Okay, Ellen MacArthur, is she the one that owns the sailboat, or is she someone else?
So she owns a sailboat, but she also has this foundation, and this foundation has this mission to make the world a better place, like a more circular place.
She sounds really cool.
Yeah, I believe she is. But so back to the point so this is all happening and all this fancy people. I mean, I'm not a fancy person or anything.
I beg to disagree, but then.
Yeah, no, I'm not. I'm seriously not fancy. I'm just old.
I would argue with you on that, but then I'd like you to go on.
I got gray hairs, man. So anyway, it all started with the fancy people. And anyway, they had lots of high level meetings. And this was during COVID. So it was all on Zoom. And these, we had these meetings, just, 50 people, 20 people, that kind of stuff.
Okay. And I'm thinking everyone was in pajamas because the pandemic period was a time where everyone could just be themselves, dress halfway up, corporate, and then other things casual.
Yeah, it was a little bit like that. But I also had my little kids coming in and walking all over me. And I think I was working from next to a washing machine or on top of a washing machine. So it was a bit strange. Actually, speaking of kids, you're going to meet them in the flesh right now. Hey guys, want to come say hello?
Hello.
So anyway, how did I know you came in the door? And they know all about circularity too.
No.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
So anyway, we're having these high level meetings, and they're attended by all the same people. All the same kind of 50 or so 100 people talking to one another, saying really fancy things like roadmap and business innovation and behavioral change.
Okay, that's interesting. That's really interesting. So at what point did you what was the outcome of the whole meeting and the whole back and forth?
So those meetings, they're not bad or anything. They're really important because I think fancy people or the policy people, they kind of need to agree on an agenda, right? It's important. It sets, a stage for what's to come, right?
Okay. That's interesting. I think it's Davos or something. Yeah, the World Economic Forum or something. Did we have something like that for circularity as well?
There is, in fact, it's called the World Circular Economy Forum. Yeah, and I think it's happening in Rwanda this year. So more Eko Africa. Just 1 second. Yes. Okay. All right. Let's talk about it later. Okay.
Okay. So that's nice. So I think what we're talking about was we're talking about what the outcome of the whole podcast thing was. What was the outcome? Sorry, the meetings rather, not the podcast. What was the outcome of the meetings? Was the podcast the outcome of the meeting, and what else came out of it?
Yeah, I think so. I think the Eko Circular Vibes podcast was an outcome of these meetings. And I think it was, again, as this first attempt of like getting out of this 100-person bubble and communicating about the opportunities and the challenges that are associated with pursuing business model opportunities in Legos.
Okay, so I'm loving that your kid is showing you so much love and it's really, and I think that's one of the things that the pandemic did. So I'm going to tap back to what you said about the pandemic. So I think one of the benefits of the pandemic is that it made us spend more time at home. It made us have this relationship more with our families, with our friends, sort of. That's the ones that are around us. And then I'm loving I'm loving your interaction with your kid. But then I want to know more about the podcast. What was the plan? Did you have like an episode series in mind? Did you have like a season series in mind? What exactly happened?
Yeah, that's right. It's like a really simple format. It's like 13 podcasts to explain what circular Legos is. I did a poor-ish job, I think, explaining it before, but I hopefully the podcasts do better justice. But it's that, circular Legos is this awareness raising and ecosystem building initiative in itself. So each podcast introduced like different aspects of circular economy and Legos, and the role that's played by different organizations, government and everything else. But I think really the main focus is trying to communicate this business opportunities. And our original goal was to share one podcast per week with like a weekly giveaway prize, because everyone likes prizes, right?
Yeah, that's true. That's really true. One of the questions or one of the things that I would like to know was, how did that work out for you? Because I think one of the things that a lot of people will agree with me is it's quite difficult to when you plan something that this is how it's going to go, sometimes you have to prepare for eventualities that you did not plan for to just pop up at you. So how was it? Did everything go according to plan, or were there a couple of setbacks or things like that?
Yeah, not at all according to plan. No.
Okay. So that's interesting to know. So I think at this point, I would like us to quickly take a listen to one of the podcasts, since we've talked around it so much, and that will give us a bit of time to collect our thoughts and come back, so that everyone can hear what we intended to achieve with the podcast, and let us know what they think about it. So the podcast we're going to be listening to now, I just have to confirm, are we good to go, Tolu? Because the podcast that we're going to be listening to now is one by Joseph, and he happens to be the CEO of Precious Plastics. And in this podcast, he was talking about the business of waste. And I think it's really an interesting one, because a lot of people don't know that when it comes to circularity, or when it comes to waste, there's no such thing as waste. Everything actually has a value. It's about finding the value and then bringing it to the forefront. And I think that's what a lot of companies and a lot of organizations are trying to do in Lagos State. However, there's still more to be done in terms of creating the awareness. So I want us to quickly listen to this podcast to see, if we were able to do that. So I give you the podcast episode 9 with Joseph, so you could listen. Yeah.
Eko Circular Vibe Podcast, brought to you by Circular Lagos and GIZ.
recycling plastic takes 88% less energy than making it from raw materials? Welcome to the Eko Circular Vibe Podcast, brought to you by Circular Lagos and GIZ. Now, in today's world, we're working smart, not hard. Shouldn't we then be bent on taking advantage of what others call waste in our environment? I mean, we now know better, don't we? Well, there's so many business opportunities in there, and we can all be a part of it. My guest on the show will be breaking down the various business models available in Circular Lagos and how the rest of the world is making it work. You ready? Let's do this.
Eko Circular Vibe Podcast.
It's still Eko Circular Vibe Podcast, brought to you by Circular Lagos and GIZ. Now, with me is a man that knows all about plastics, recycling, and the whole concept of circular economy. I have in the studio Joseph Klatt, CEO, Precious Plastics. Thank you so much for being here.
Thanks for having me.
Tell us a little about circular economy. What is that concept in very short terms?
Yeah, circular economy is really about changing the way that we think about materials and how it flows through our economy. And it's a transition from a linear model where we are sort of taking materials out of the earth, we're transforming it into products, and then we're dumping it in landfills or incinerators at the end of their life. Instead, going to a model where we are trying to keep those materials flowing in the economy really as long as possible in a circular way. They're not ending up in a landfill or incineration.
Wow. And then if you had to explain what the circular business models are, can you do that in short term?
Sure. Yeah, there's varying levels of circular business models. So sort of the most traditional is a basic recycling model where you are, if you're thinking about plastics or metal or similar materials, it's where you are, taking those products back at the end of their useful life. You are then trying to break them down into their more fundamental components, and then turning them into a new product again. So for plastic, that would be like shredding plastic bottles, for example, melting them down and then blowing them into new bottles. That's kind of a basic recycling model. But now in circular economy, there's more business models around like business as a service. So instead of owning your own car, everyone, for example, looking at models more like Uber, where you are really sharing infrastructure and really tapping into service models where you're, instead of owning the asset yourself, you're more paying like a monthly fee or a user fee like you do with Uber. So there's some a lot of innovation going on in the different types of service circular business models.
Amazing. In your opinion, how
Okay, so hello everyone. I'm sorry. What's going to happen is, okay, apologies for the volume of this particular podcast here. So what's going to happen is I'm going to play it on my end, and hopefully it's louder. Some of our audiences cannot hear, and then we also have the French interpreter who needs to translate for the French audience. So it'd be good for us to just have it louder. So I'm going to share. Yes, I'm going to play it here. Okay.
Eko Circular Vibe Podcast.
can you do that?
To a new product again. So for plastics, that would be like shredding plastic bottles, for example, melting them down and then blowing them into new bottles. That's kind of a basic recycling model. But now in circular economy, there's more business models around like business as a service. So instead of owning your own car, everyone, for example, looking at models more like Uber, where you are really sharing infrastructure and really tapping into service models where you're, instead of owning the asset yourself, you're more paying like a monthly fee or a user fee like you do with Uber. So there's some a lot of innovation going on in the different types of service circular business models.
Amazing. In your opinion, how is this going to work in developing countries like Nigeria?
Well, I think what's interesting about the developing world is that oftentimes there's an opportunity to leapfrog current technologies and really get to the cutting edge of innovative technologies. You saw that in telecommunications, for example. The rapid acceleration of the use of smartphones and app technology really happened, incredibly quick in developing countries that leapfrogged actually some older technologies. And I think you could see the same thing happen with circular business models. And you see a lot of innovation in the space. So I would not be surprised if a lot of the cutting edge of circular business models actually come from the developing world.
You're the CEO of Precious Plastics, so you're very much involved with, the concept of a circular economy. What are the realities if someone wants to venture into these circular business models? What do I need to know?
Well, I think you need to know the basics of where we're trying to go with the circular economy. On one hand, it's the sort of inorganic materials and how do we keep plastic, metals, any synthetic materials inside of the economy flowing. And then on the other side, you need to know about organic materials. So wood, food waste, all that sort of stuff, has its own organic systems that we're trying to create. So you should know the difference between those two cycles and then try to figure out, okay, where's my entry into making this dream of, circular economy? How can I help make that happen?
Awesome. Thank you very much. Before you go, I do know that you've been to Lagos, so I would love to know, what is the one thing you love about Lagos and what's the one thing you do not like about Lagos?
Yeah, first of all, I love Lagos. I think it's a fantastic city and I love Nigeria. I really enjoyed the energy. There's so much entrepreneurial spirit in Lagos, people really trying to make the world a better place. I love that about it. And the thing that I guess was the biggest issue was the traffic. So not a fan of sitting in the car for sometimes multiple hours.
Oh my gosh. Thank you so much for sharing that with us. I'm cracking up. Thank you. I've been talking to Joseph Klatt, CEO Precious Plastics. It's been a pleasure talking to you. Thank you.
Thank you so much. It's been great being here.
Wow. Was it just me or were you taking notes too? Well, in the words of Prince Charles, if life they show you pepper, my guy, make pepper soup. Or in this case, if Lagos life give you trash, then turn them to cash.
Eko Circular Vibe Podcast, brought to you by Circular Lagos and GIZ. This na the Coco with Eko.
This na the Coco with Eko. One big man, the CEO of Precious Plastics, Mr. Joseph Klatt, come our yard today. As person where they do the work now, I say make you follow us here. Him say circular economy, they talk about how we go change this idea, say na canal or gotta get our dirty. Say that's your dirty. He make another thing. It's a circular business model. Now way to look business as service. That one means say different business now if we come together, they share one platform. Like Uber now, one person fit get app, another person gets the motor, another person be the driver. Then different, but now one platform then they use. He say as Nigeria be developing country, hope self day for us to become circular, and it go favor us now because we still dey learn work, because we go regenerate our own income. Him say before you enter any part of the business as entrepreneur, abeg make you do your research well. Finally, Oga just say him like Nigeria and him love Lagos because if we put our mind for something, nothing fits to stop us. So my people, make we join hand, make we move and go forward. And this na the Coco.
Circular Vibe Podcast, brought to you by Circular Lagos and GIZ.
Don't forget to check out our website, www.circularlagos.com. And are you following us on social media, you should at Circular Lagos. Now say it with me. Ìtẹ̀síwájú ìpínlẹ̀ Èkó ló jẹ wá lógún.
Okay. Okay, so we're back. Okay. So once again, I want to apologize for the issue with the volume, the technical difficulty with the volume a while ago. Sincere apologies for that. I hope that towards I think at the middle when we switched to a different device, I hope it was clearer for everyone to hear and that. Okay, so we would like to know from you. Okay, Dr. Natalie, are you still here? Okay.
Still here.
Okay, thank you very, very much. So yes, we listened to the first podcast. Technical difficulties, sometimes they happen. But then I think I would like to say that for you, first of all, was that podcast able to deliver on the promise that you had for it? That particular episode, was it able to deliver on the promise that you had for the idea or the vision that you had for it? Then I will go to the house.
Yeah, I think this is, we selected this one based on the relevance of the content. And I think this one does, it explains the business models pretty well, and explains a few steps of how to get to them. So, and it's been a while since I've listened to them, so it was really nice to hear the summaries as well. So I think in terms of overarching messaging, it did deliver. I'm going to say right now as well that I think one of the ideas or reasonings we had behind the podcast is that, like with web-based sessions, you don't often go back and listen to them, but a podcast can be reused and used as like teaching content and educational content. So I think that was also an idea here, was to have something that had actual educational use content in it that we could repurpose, not just for to launch 13 series, but also in different environments as well.
Okay. And I think that's really interesting. So at this point, we're going to open the floor for everyone to come in. So we're going to have a quick poll where we want to know from you, how did you find this particular episode that you listened to? Was it informative? Was it entertaining? Was it fair? Was it boring? We would like to know from you, because one of the things we've come to learn in the course of our journey is that most of the time it's not about what you think is nice. It's about what the audience perceives from what you have given out. So no matter how interesting what you think is, it depends on the people that you are serving. And right now we're called to serve you. So I don't know, what do you think about it? So thank you to those that are taking the poll already. A lot of people are attending to us in informative, and then we have someone saying that it was entertaining. Okay, so let's keep this coming in. I think we have a few seconds more for that question. Okay, someone else is saying that it was informative. So while the answers are coming in, I think we have a couple of people from other places. Let me see if I can find the chat box here. Okay, let's see. Okay, there's some people that have not introduced or welcomed properly. Okay, I think I've gone around everybody. Okay, so yes, God's Will from Nigeria, Ivan from South Africa, welcome. Okay. There's Simcar. Okay, so we'll have a session where everyone is like if I got your name wrong, you just introduce yourself and let me know this is how to better pronounce it. So I think some people have answered us here. And a lot of people say that it was informative. Okay, more informative than entertaining. Others, okay, some people say it was fair, and that's so good. We'll take your feedback to heart, and then we'll would work with that. So the second question on the poll is, on a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being poor and 10 being great, how would you say that did it deliver on promise to you? So we said we wanted people to know about more about the business of waste. Were we able to achieve that, or did we stray away from the promise? Okay, some people have voted as well. Okay, someone gave us a 9 over 10. Okay, so I think that's about everybody that wants to contribute. Okay. So I'm going to end this poll now. Okay. Yeah. Okay. So thank you so much for your feedback. We really, really appreciate it. And I think one of the other things we would like to know is, for those of us that felt that it did not deliver so well on promise, or for those of us that felt that it was fair, what do you think, or what would you suggest that we change? So what would you suggest that we change? What would you suggest that we adjust? Okay. Okay. Okay, I think everyone has taken the poll. And then, yeah. So, okay. So now we're going to move on to the next part here. So I want Dr. Nati, I want you to talk a bit about the host for the podcast. Like, how did you come about the host for the podcast? And then there was something interesting that I noticed. It was, there was a place where you did this thing where let me collect my thoughts. So there was the English where we have the Nigerian English. No, we have the English that everyone speaks, and then we have Pidgin. So I think Pidgin is more like the Nigerian English. What made you come up with that? What made you say, okay, let's have it clear, and then let's have it in Pidgin?
Yeah, those are really great questions. So first, in terms of the host, Chioma, who's absolutely fantastic, a radio personality in Lagos, as well as a podcast producer. As we saw in the beginning of this session, we work with multiple kinds of partners, and for this project in particular, we worked with GIZ to develop the concept and identify a podcast host. So Chioma was someone that has been previously partnered with GIZ and other kinds of public messaging work. So that's how we came to know her, and it was really a fantastic learning experience on our end. And then from the why did we mix the languages? This is again a really great question, because as I mentioned before, so our target audience was 18 to 35-year-olds, and we had asked ourselves, it's an eco circular vibe, right? So we want to make sure it's as eco as possible. And then there was a lot of questions: should this be in English and Pidgin, what language? And the conclusion was that actually, because the target audience is 18 to 35, university, entrepreneur kind of focus, then is best to have in English. That's the kind of lingua franca. So we stick to English for the core messaging, but to make sure it's as eco as possible, to move to Pidgin. And that was the conclusion, to make it as eco as possible. And I think we're very, very happy with that result as well.
Okay. Thank you so much for that. And I think it was quite, it was, would I say innovative, or it was quite a wonderful thinking on that part, because most of the people that these things affect are not all that fancy. They are the people that I saw a comment that made me smile, so sorry about that. They are the people that we try to reach as much as possible. So if someone is saying that the inclusion of Pidgin, okay. Someone someone's mic is on. So someone is saying that the inclusion of Pidgin was able to like bring the person much vibe. That is, it made it as relatable as possible for him because he speaks Pidgin, or it makes it relatable for anyone that is able to speak Pidgin. And I think that is true as well. So back to Chioma, I just want us to like go through the stuff. What happened in that process? What did she have to do? And then the other question is, how are you able to get the guests to come on board? Because that's the tricky thing, especially in a time when a lot of people's calendars are always booked, and then there's so much happening at the same time.
Yeah, I think that was another, like, one of the most, again, I was like a podcast newbie, and the idea of the podcast came from the fact that I thought, you know, the webinars are stale. They don't reach out to, it's like, again, just everybody patting themselves on the back, and you can't reuse the content. And I'm just back onto this Pidgin thing. I'm going to say now that I find actually in many of the episodes, it's the summary at the end, which is the most compelling part of the podcast. So if you do listen to some of them later, this is she does a really excellent job of making it 30 second to 1 minute summary of the main teaching messages of the podcasts. But I think because I'm a major newbie in this field, and I didn't have Deborah at the time to guide me in the right direction, it was just more like, oh, podcast, like really cool idea, let's do it. And I thought about it more in conjunction with the fact that, like, with a lot of these web meetings that you have, you're trying to schedule one one time for everybody to be available for this big talk shop, and it's extremely difficult to get all the important people there at the right time. So I thought, okay, podcast, well, you have a lot of flexibility. You do the you schedule when at a time, like a short time, at the time that works for that person. Well, I was totally wrong about that. It doesn't work like that at all. There's a whole production process behind it, and Chioma in this case has to rent a studio, and the times had to correspond with the times for the meetings with the podcast interviewees had to correspond perfectly with the studio time, and that was actually even more difficult than getting everybody aligned around a 1 day webinar, 1 hour that it would be at a webinar. So that was a bit of a surprise. And I think the other part of the surprise for that is that because the timings were so short, we didn't have really the adequate time to prepare the interviewees to give the main messages that we wanted to send, and we also didn't necessarily include everybody that we'd wanted to in our first kind of ideation about this, because the timings just didn't work.
Okay, thank you so much for that. Okay, thank you. So at this point, I think that it's only fair that I open the floor to the audience. I think we would like you guys to come in now. So there are a couple of questions that we have. Because one of the things we wanted to achieve with this session was to, as much as possible, get a general feel and a general take on not just the podcast, but then the means of communicating about circularity, or the means of communicating the ideas that we have. So I'll give you a brief example of that. So one of the programs that we run, which is a Loop Lab, the Loop Lab Incubation program, we had our opportunity scanning workshop last month, one of our first opportunity scanning workshops last month. And I'm sure that I saw Babatunde here. He's one of our innovators in the program. And we had this, I don't know if I'm allowed to say the company, but then let me keep that private. We had an organization come up, and they are doing a lot about sustainability. They're doing a lot about circularity. So they produce things that require packaging with plastics. However, the question is, what happens to the plastics when they are done? And if you've noticed, a lot of talks about circularity has always revolved around plastics. There's more. There's the fashion part, there's textile, there's metal, there's wood. There's so many things that it cuts across. But then we found that in Lagos here, a lot of times a lot of people are focused on plastics. luckily we're trying to spread deeper than that. So we have things lined up for fashion and paper and so on and so forth. So back to the story. So the person in this organization shared with us that they're doing quite a lot. However, one of the challenges they are having is putting it out there. So people don't even know that they have plans or they have a structure in place to collect these plastics that have been used. And that for us was like, oh, what a brilliant idea. So you have a communications problem. And I think that that's one of the issues that is being faced when it comes to circular economy. Communications, like how do you tell people that you are doing this work? How do you change their mindsets that they have about particular things, that they are currently practicing? Because it goes as far as being a mindset issue. And that's why we're thankful for Rise Africa, because true to its name, it's trying to raise everybody, like trying to raise this awareness that there are things that can be done and there are things that should be done and there are ways that you should go about doing that. And it's really awesome. But we also like to know from you guys, what do you think? Was working with the podcast, was it the right approach for us? Or should we have started with other things? And then with the podcast, what else do you think that we could convert it for? Because we know that you are the ones that interact with these things on a daily basis. Is your attention span really great for podcasts? Or would you rather we do a list? Or would you rather read a blog post about all these things, just to get the creative aspect going and to communicate more? So I think what's going to happen is the floor is going to be open. I don't know who wants to talk about it, but what do you think about these things? What do you think that we could do differently? What do you think that we could use as a different communication channel, as a different means to pass the message across better? So the floor is open. I don't know who might want to speak at the same time. So while that is going on, I think a poll is going to go up soon for you to share, because not everybody might want to come up live and say things that they want to say. So I don't know. The floor is open. Would anyone like to say something about it? So I think the poll is up now. There's some questions there. How much did you know about circularity before now? Circular economy before now? What kind of content do you prefer the most? Do you even listen to podcasts on a normal day? Okay, someone's hand is up. Okay. Mr. Asai, I think you have the floor. You could share your thoughts with us. I can see your hand up.
Hi everyone.
Hello, welcome.
Yeah, my name is Essien.
Essien, okay, thank you so much.
Yes, Essien, yes. Yeah. I'm really glad about what your platform is doing in the circular space. Right, it's quite effective. So as regards your question on how better to improve your your reach in your campaign, I think that we have to consider the place of social psychology, and so one of the most effective things to do for future sake will be to engage schools, right? So primary schools, secondary schools, and universities, and because over time you realize that the adults, when they grow into adulthood, you realize that more adults are involved in circular space and understand the idea of things like waste segregation, right? So they know where to put the organic waste, they know where to put the wood waste, the plastic waste, and all of that. So I think it will be very good to involve them, because when you involve them, they'll go home and then have conversations with their parents, and then it's easier to reach children in one space than to reach adults in one space. So I'll give an example, right? I'm an agriculturist, and I'm going into sustainable agriculture, and one of the things that we realized growing up was the fact that integrated agriculture used to be like, the world was more into normal form of agriculture where you can do like landscape agriculture and all of that. But then the new idea came up of integrated agriculture, and so everybody went to do integrated agriculture. So the entire world has learned the effectiveness of integrated agriculture. Now, what is going on in the agricultural space is sustainable agriculture, circular agriculture, organic waste processing and all of that. And in the next couple of years, you realize that food systems are going towards that range. So I think that in a nutshell, a good way to reach people, especially in a metropolitan state like Lagos, would be to involve the young people. Basically, yeah. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that. And I really appreciate you sharing with us. And yeah, I quite agree with you that it's really effective if you can engage the people that are coming up, not the people who are older and set in their ways, as you said about the social psychology, but people who are upcoming. So the youth, the young people. Thank you so much. We've taken note of that. And yes, we'll work on that as well. Okay, yes. So we have a comment from Matthew, who's saying that he agrees with the concept of, let me see that, early education. So yes, early education is really, really critical for circularity. Thank you so much for that. I don't know if any other person has anything to say, or you have any questions for Dr. Natalie?
Hey, this is Natalie. I'm gonna sort of build or run, or okay. I don't know what the right word is on Itino's comments, because I think, yeah, absolutely nail on the head. This is like a very important population, not just in terms of behavior change and access, but also like they're the talent pipeline, let's say. But when we talk about like direct curriculum engagement, like this is something that's actually, because you have it managed at like from a federal level, and I know that this is a very difficult process to engage at that like comprehensive level, and I'm curious or interested. I know we're working on a few initiatives ourselves, but what if there's ideas around how you can really reach these populations in en masse and in a, rather than like school by school, let's say, if anyone's ever thought of that or had some examples about how they've done that.
Okay. So I think that's a question also for the house. That is how to reach people, not just in small scales, but also on a large scale. That's if I get correctly. Yeah. Okay. Okay, so I'm going to share something. Okay, so I'd like to think that a couple of us found out about this event through our personal network and then on social media. So I want to share my screen and yeah. Okay. So I want to thank you so much for chipping in on what we could do more of, which is the advocacy in terms of early education. And then I think I would like to ask us about question 7, which is what would you recommend that we do more of in terms of how, so social media is all the rave. And I think so that no matter how much of what we know about social media, everyone is still in some kind of process of learning. Of course, they are experts, but then everyone is also in the process of learning. So I don't know if there are social media tags that you would recommend to help spread the word about circular Lagos business model. I don't know. Are there tags that you would recommend? Are there things that you say, okay, this is what I like, or this is what I saw that made a lot of sense for me? Would also like to hear your view on that. And then I think also, the other question that we wanted to bring to the house is, I wasn't even expecting, okay, so I'm going to go off script and say, I was expecting someone to say something like animation, because I feel that one of the powerful ways to get people or to get people to stop and listen is through videos and animations. I don't know if anyone will agree with me on that, with videos and with animations, you're able to share more content or share the idea widespread. So I'll give an example. I went online and I searched a lot because I wanted to explain circular economy to some people in my space, in my community. And then I found a very interesting short video. It was like 3 minutes long. And because it was animated, that was the whole concept, or the whole process was animated. It was quite easy for people to understand or people to follow. And I got a lot of feedback on that. I don't know if it's one of the concepts or one of the things you think that catches people's attention. Would an animation catch your attention? Do you think an animation or a cartoon, or would you say that we could change the storytelling angle a bit as to how we communicate these things? Because it's not about just coming and then narrating. I'm thinking it's not about coming and narrating everything you want to narrate, but also twisting it up a bit. So I would like to hear from you on this part as well. Okay, no one is sharing. Okay.
Hi, Deborah.
Hello.
Yeah, I'm sorry if I spoke out of turn. I actually, raised my hand. But yeah.
No,
So okay, yeah. So the idea of animation is actually very effective. It's one of the things that I and my team worked on last year. So it's easier than just getting a couple of persons to act a role and say, oh, you're acting this character, you're acting that character, and everything. So it's going to be very effective, especially for young people. I mean, young people like to watch cartoons and all of that. So yeah, that's going to be very, very effective in ensuring that you get there. I think that another thing that would be great is, in circular space, one of the ways to grow the industry is to help people identify opportunities to plug into along the different, the value chain, the supply chain, the processing chain, and all of that. So more people will be interested and will be involved. So I think that if you could work with radio stations and have, say, ambassadors, right? So ambassadors that would promote, promote this, and then we could have, because the easiest way to reach the greatest or the highest number of people is through social media. So we're talking, and so in a place like Lagos, for example, we're talking radio stations, TV stations, and all of that. And also, I think that Twitter is going to also be a very good place to start, to have that conversation. So you would want to work with a lot of social media persons to push the drive to ensure that it's a hot topic on Twitter. So the topic, so you can have conversations like, okay, growing up, what did you think about plastic waste? Did you ever think about burning plastic waste? Did you like the smell of burning plastic waste? Oh, you didn't. Okay, so what do you think can help our situation? So are you aware that plastic waste, promotes flooding in cities because our canals get clogged, and so which also in turn promotes bad public health, so spread of malaria, and all of that. So so conversations like this will stir up, creativity amongst people. I mean, young and old alike. So like I earlier mentioned, so TV stations, radio stations, social media spaces like Twitter handles. So if you can work with social media influencers too. That would be a very good way to start. It's a smart way to go about it where you don't necessarily have to spend too much money, just a way where you can ensure that people are getting the right message and see that, circular economy is here to stay, or circular economy space here basically is here to stay. So yeah.
Thank you so much for that again. Thank you, really, really. I am loving the ideas that you are dropping. I'm loving it, and I'm taking notes as well, because I think that it's really important for us to jump on the things you've mentioned, like social media. So I like the fact that you mentioned Twitter, and then engaging, and then actually having conversations, and not just, dropping stuff and assuming that everybody will read it, but then tailoring it towards the things that they are familiar with, so that they in turn can now say, oh, I think this interests me, and then I would like to be a part of it, or I would like to start working towards it. Thank you so much for that. I don't know, in the absence of any other contributions, any other comments, we still have one more podcast to play. And I think this one now goes deep into mindset. So thankfully, we've talked about the psychology part, or the social psychology part. So this one talks about mindset, or what the Secular Lagos mindset is about, and how we feel that this could probably, how people's minds could be changed. And this particular one was brought, the guest on this one was Dr. Akanimo, and he's really doing a lot. He's also in charge of the Loop Lab Research Fellows right now. So we're getting students from university to also not just write papers or write projects or do research that is not implemented. That is, we don't want research anymore that is not converted into actual solutions. We want them to do something where the research that their findings are actually implemented. So he's working with us on this angle. So I think at this point, let's just quickly listen to this podcast, and then we get your feedback, and then we gradually close this session for today. So I will stop sharing and then start sharing again. Yeah. Also, yes, all the podcast starts the same way. So I don't know, like we said earlier, the song is sort of like a vibe. So yes, it's going to start the same way. So please do enjoy.
Eko Circular Vibe Podcast, brought to you by Circular Lagos and GIZ.
Imagine taking a BRT in Lagos, and instead of paying for your trip in cash, you pay with plastic bottles. What? Sounds unbelievable, right? But according to CCTV News, to encourage recycling, Beijing subways allow travelers to use plastic bottles as payment. Now that is the effect of a circular economy. Hello and welcome to Eko Circular Vibe Podcast, brought to you by Circular Lagos and GIZ. My name is Chema BBB. I am the big, bold and beautiful, your host. Today we're talking behavioral change and mindset shift. I can't wait for you to meet my guest, but I love to tease you, so I'll be
right back. Eko Circular Vibe Podcast.
Thank you for staying in. Our guest is the CEO of Envirofly Consulting Limited. He is also the co-founder of XN Foundation and the founder of Academia for Green Africa Initiative. Please welcome Dr. Akanimo Odom.
Thank you very much. It's an absolute pleasure to be here.
Thank you so much for being here. Okay, in precise terms, how would you describe a circular economy, and what would a circular Lagos look like?
So now, to understand circular economy, to be honest, I think it's probably easier to first understand a linear economy, because it's like the reverse. So in a linear economy, raw materials or raw natural resources are taken, they're transformed into products and services, and then they're disposed of. Okay. Now, and the opposite, a circular economy model aims to close the gap between the production and the natural ecosystem cycles. So in which case, fundamentally, that eliminating waste becomes actually a very important component of the circular economy. So instead of producing and getting rid of waste, you produce, but then you use waste back into the loop. So fundamentally, a circular economy is like an industrial system that, or an economic system that is restorative, is regenerative by intention and design. So instead of having like an end of life concept, in this case, you now shift towards renewable energy, elimination of using of toxic chemicals, renewal of systems, but also the use of waste for energy and other new byproducts. So it becomes circular in nature and continues across board. That's basically what it is.
Oh, wow. Okay, so I'm going to bring it down to the layman, the regular Lagosian such as myself. Now, as someone who's well acquainted with Lagos life, what behaviors do you observe have not helped us as a people? And is it even possible for us to change, or are we just set in our ways, in your opinion?
So, it's been a long time, this culture of waste as it's been actually been ingrained into people's psyche, people's livelihoods, people's systems, and people's processes. And the truth is, except there is a massive shock to the system, that would continue. So fundamentally, few of the behaviors that is really, really bad is the behavior of excess consumption. If you don't need something, why do you get it? Oh, I want to be the next thing. Oh, someone has a new shoe. You've got 55 shoes. It doesn't make any sense. How much do you use? So this strong compulsion to keep buying and accumulating is a behavioral mindset that is absolutely damages the environment and negates the intent of a circular economy. That's fundamentally one reason. Secondly, that gap between, if you like, the government or industry or even academia, because everyone is disconnected. That gap where it's all about myself, cannot function appropriately in a circular economy because it has to be driven by partnerships. So, for example, what is beneficial to me, and in using what I need, does it get benefit to somebody else? It has to be a coalition of interest, mutuality for anything to make sense.
Okay.
Are you following me?
Yes.
Yeah.
So I would ask you, where do we begin to fix our mindset after pointing out these things?
In international communities, if you look at it critically, it's good for people to understand why they have to do things. So, for example, if I said, okay, guys, when you have waste at home, can you segregate them into different sections? So, for example, let your plastic bottles go to a specific container. Let your glass go to a specific container. That's quite straightforward. Are you following me?
Yes.
But then the trouble is, if there is no compulsion or a clarity in terms of the awareness generation of why they are doing it, people just don't care. Because as far as they're concerned, it's someone else's business. So it means that for our mindset to change, there are different levels of entry. There has to be a massive awareness creation. People will do things if there's a benefit to them. Sadly, but that is the reality. But in developed economies, people will do things if there is some kind of a structural design where policy drives it. A simple example is this. Imagine if the Lagos State government, for example, said, okay, guess what? We are banning waste, or we are banning the use of plastic materials, or we are banning the use of this. And you have a fine to pay if it happens. That is hitting people in their pockets. Now they're wondering, wait a minute, I don't want to get punished, then I will comply.
Right.
It's shameful that has to be the way to drive mindset changes. But ultimately, when a system is so polluted and so ingrained in terms of its wastage capacity, those are the kind of things that can shut the system.
Okay, I'd like you to talk to kids, teenagers, and the youth on recycling.
Waste is not waste. Waste is a resource. There is money in waste. If you are exposed to the fundamentals of this, the youth are the future of Nigeria, the future of the continent. And unless you understand that and actually build on their capacity building, then we are in trouble. So young people, take the bulls by the horn. The old ones have messed things up. Let's not do the same.
Oh, we can fix it. Thank you.
Absolutely.
I know that you're very acquainted with Lagos, so you have to tell us the one thing that you don't like about Lagos, and on the flip side, the one thing you love about Lagos.
So the one thing I don't like about Lagos is about to hit me right now. Is the mad traffic. I'm on the island, about to head to the airport, and I'm already dreading how I'm going to get there. So traffic is an absolute disaster. But to be fair, that happens in most other cities anyway across the continent. But one thing I do love about Lagos, my goodness, is the heartbeat of industrialization, is the heartbeat of economic development. It is singing with transformation and effervescence of young people. And Lagos is a place where there's energy and power to make change happen.
Thank you so much, Dr. Akanimo Odong. Well, you heard him. We can do this together. We can be each other's accountability partners. Coming up next, it's the Coco with Omoiku. But first, a quick breather, and I'll be right back.
Eko Circular Vibe Podcast. This na the Coco with Omoiku.
This na the Coco with Omoiku. Our guest today, now Dr. Akanimo Odong, the CEO of EnviroFly Consulting. He also be the co-founder of XM Foundation and the founder of Academia for Green Africa Initiative. He talk about how our behavior with wastage they affect all of us for Lagos. He say one of the big problems be say we too dey waste, and now because we dey think of only ourselves. He say we need to change quick. We're not supposed to wait to make punishment today first now. According to Dr. Odon, waste will not be waste to waste na resources. Money they waste business, and if all of us work together, we fit make Lagos clean and make money inside. Now the Coco be that.
Eko Circular Vibe Podcast, brought to you by Circular Lagos and GIZ.
Okay. Okay, so let me say welcome back from that podcast. I think I like to think of it like, oh, we went on a short break and now we're back and we're about rounding up this session. Okay, wow. Okay, so welcome back from that short break where we got the chance to listen. And I think I really enjoyed this particular episode. I don't know what you think. How was this episode for you? Yeah, I think there was a lot of energy, especially from the guest, Dr. Akan, and I really enjoyed it. So what about you? And I think it also did something. It also informed, like it addressed a lot of things we had talked about. The mindset thing we mentioned. Yeah. So he talked about the mindset thing, and then he also had a message for the kids and the students, and telling them that, okay, this is how waste is. There is no such thing as waste. You know, there's value in it. And I think that was really good. So the poll is up, and yes, we're getting responses already. At this point, okay. So, okay, some people found it informative, and I think that's a big plus. Nobody found it boring, so thank you so much. It was really informative, yes. Okay, I don't know if anyone has any questions for Dr. Natalie. So we've been asking you to let us know. I don't know if you have any questions for Dr. Natalie. We're gradually coming to the end of this session. I want to say thank you to all those, everyone who has been here with us. Yes. So I don't know if you have any questions for Dr. Natalie. She has to go in a couple of minutes. Do you have any questions? Do you have anything you want to know? Do you want to know where you can come in? If you can connect with her, if you can connect with us? Would you like to know more about our programs? I don't know. If you have any questions, this is an awesome time to bring them up. Okay, so we have a comment from Tolu. It's like she enjoyed the podcast, especially because of the inclusiveness for all ages and the part about the behavioral change. And I think that's really good. So, okay. I don't know, no one is saying anything, so I'm assuming there are no questions. Yeah. Okay, so So we've come to the end of this session. Oh, someone, okay. So yes, Ayomide, you have the floor. I can see your hand raised. I don't know, you have a question? You can unmute yourself, Ayomide. Your hand is raised. Oh, maybe I'm not getting the person correctly. So your name is reading Ayomide, and your hand is raised. You have the floor. You can share your thoughts. Okay, so I think he's not with us. So I was going to say that I want to say thank you again because we're gradually approaching. Okay,
Hello?
so yeah, yes.
Hello?
Hello?
Sorry to come in. I raised my hand.
Oh, your name
but
on my screen
I
is
was not
reading
sure.
Ayomide. I apologize about that.
No, my name is Babatunde Eko Circular.
Yes.
Mysterio.
I'm just saying that. Okay,
Okay,
I'm saying that.
Let me go.
Okay,
Let
no
me
problem.
go straight to the point because of others.
Yeah. Okay.
In an issue like this, what I thought from what Dr. just exposed us to,
Okay.
there is no behavioral change in psychology that does not involve three things.
Okay.
There is no way, is either punishment, incentive, or reinforcement.
Okay.
So, as I said, I don't know whether is the one that made mention of it, but someone just from the vibes, you discover they made mention of a catching word, a very, very catching and interesting one, a kind of incentive. Can we imagine you entering into BLT bus and you are paid by your waist? That is very catchy. Ordinary Nigeria, not even Lagosian now. Ordinary Nigeria, we hear that. I tell you, they will kill him. So it's just for me to carry this and I will not pay. So, and that is what I would say reward. That is the reward of it. If such a thing will happen, is a reward and it will make things so popular. The challenge you can just have there is, okay, you are entering into such a thing. As you are giving that information, you want to make it realistic. That I think that's where challenges will come, making it realistic. How much space does BLT has that you can carry that your waist? But no matter, there is no way you give out such an information that it will not key into someone's and you will feel like, what next can I do?
Okay.
So that is about the reward. And as Dr. has rightly said, there is issue of punishment as well. So it now depends on which to use. But for me, this way CIP is going, Secular Lagos is going, I want to believe it will be better to use this reward system. As we have had this podcast now, it's good we continue this way. Let's leave the issue of punishment or policy to government.
Okay.
But what I wanted to say in essence is either way, reward or punishment. And we now reinforce either of the two that works. So thanks very much for this podcast. It's a very interesting one. That very second vibe we have, if it can be shared on social media, if it can be shared, I want to believe more people will get to catch our attention of what Secular Lagos is all about and what CIP is doing. Because to me, and the people that are here with me, all of them are like, I wish it's here that would give them waste and we will not pay for transport fare. You can see how we laugh when we listen to it. So thank you very much.
Okay. Thank you so much for that, Mr. Babatunde. I'm so sorry that I got your name wrong. I have like 4 or 3 people with the same Ayomide, so I apologize for that. Yes, thank you again for your feedback. It was good to hear. And yes, the podcast had actually been shared earlier, but I'll be sure to share it again. You can actually find the podcast on our website, that is www.circularlagos.com. I think, Tolu, you could help me put that in the chat box so that they can go to the website and then get the episodes of the podcast. They're actually free for everybody to listen and to learn and to give feedback as much as possible. Thank you again. And I'm thinking our time is fast spent because I'm looking at the clock, and thank you so much for staying with us this long. I want to quickly say thank you to the organizers of this festival. Thank you so much. So in the chat box, there is a form where you can give your feedback for the session. We would really like to know your feedback. I am a big believer in learning and adapting. So yes, your feedback is so welcome so that we can learn, and then next time we come better, bolder and much more interesting. So the links are in the description box, please. I said description. There's so many terms in my mind. Apologies for that. So the links are actually in the chat box. You can give your feedback for that. I want to say thank you to Dr. Natalie for your presence in this session. I know that you have to go in a couple of minutes. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you very much. I'm seeing people saying thank you for the engaging session. Thank you for your thoughts. Yes. Thank you, CIP team. Thank you, everybody that showed up. Thank you again for your feedback. I am big on feedback, so thank you. Okay, so we're about to sign out any minute from now. Again, please, you could use the link in the chat box to drop your feedback so that everything is collated in a centralized location. So it's easy for us to pick out what we need to. Thank you once again. So the recordings for this session, I want to believe that they will be available after the entire festival when we've been able to do and sort out a couple of things. Yeah. So this is where we close the session, and I will still round up with the song because I'm feeling the song and the vibe. So I'm going to round up with that. I don't know. For me, it's quite interesting. So I'll round up with a slightly longer version of that song. If you have questions still, you could also add that in the feedback, and we'll answer that. I think there are a series of mailers that are going out. So in one of those mailers, or the questions that you have will be answered. So, okay. So with that, I think we've come to the end. Oh, thank you so much. A lot of people are responding in the chat box. It was informative. Yes. Thank you. So this is where we are going to close the session for today. Okay. So thank you, Aili, for the platform. Thank you, Rise Africa. I have to scream now, and yes.